I'm Larry Seaquist. I represent the citizens of the 26th District, which runs from downtown Bremerton down through Port Orchard to Gig Harbor out to Key Peninsula.
What is the budget process this year?
We're going to begin this week with the Senate rolling out the operating budget. We actually in the state have three major budgets. We've got the big operating budget that does most of the education, healthcare, and government. We've got a transportation budget that buys roads, bridges, and ferries. And we've got a capital budget that builds buildings, particularly school buildings and things like that. So the transportation budget has started coming out. We'll see next week the operating budget, and the capital budget will be right behind that. There's an interesting thing about the way Washington does this. In the U.S. Constitution, in the Congress, the House of Representatives always originates money bills. But when the founders created Washington State, they alternated. So this biennium, this legislature, the Senate leads off with their bills and the House follows. Actually, we're doing those budgets simultaneously, side by side, and then trying to reconcile them.
What are some things that people should be watching for in the budget?
Obviously, what everybody's talking about and what the headlines are about how much we've had to cut. We're making cuts to this budget that are bigger than anything in Washington State's history. Some programs will be cut 25%. Just imagine what you do if you cut your household budget down 25% and you still had to make the car payment and the house payment. It's very difficult to do that. So what people need to be watching is what's the impact of those cuts. And I would say then they should watch for three things. The cuts are so big and so dramatic that we're going to have to do some adjustments. So in the next few days or a couple of weeks, while we're still here, citizens telling me and everybody else in the legislature what they would like to see fixed is an important thing to do. Secondly, we ought to be thinking about where we're going. How are we using this budget to dig ourselves out of this hole? And thirdly, something I'm really interested in, how are we using this budget to downsize and reshape Washington State's government? It needs to be smaller.
Can you talk a little bit about the friend you got next to you there?
Well, I was thinking when we were standing here that George Washington, first of all, would be pleased to have a whole state named after him, and he would be, I think, quite pleased with the legislative process. Washington and the founders were very concerned about how they structured government so that we could do things like cut budgets or get ourselves through difficult times. And I think Washington would be very proud of this political system that we have in America that lets us walk through these very difficult times. We may not like what we're doing as we go through that, but we all go through it and come out together. And I think there will be a better Washington. We are going to recover from this, and we're going to come out a stronger state and a stronger country at the end of this.
And how can your constituents get in contact with you?
Please either click in or call in. And I would seriously, this is not just a ritual, please let me know what you're thinking. Watch that budget, tell me what things in there you think ought to be different. If you think we ought to save something, where would you take a cut instead? Look forward to hearing from you.